fear to give. I feel but I can't forgive. I go all in this time, yeah, I won't regret. I'll pick the best on trip, they don't understand. I play to win, yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Yeah, I play to win, I play to win. Oh, play to win, I play to win. Yeah, play to win, I play to win.
Just so everybody knows, we are about to witness the best mock draft ever in the history of mock drafts, okay? So we're here with some awesome guests today. We are going to mock draft like you've never mock draft before. There's trades involved. There's smiles involved. There's awesome people involved. And when we are ready to get this bad boy going.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Andrew, that's Herms that made that for me. It's fantastic.
I can tell, and I love Herms. That's beautiful. Herms, well done, sir. That's genius.
Well done, Mr. Herms, Mr. Herms, Mr. Herms, my guy. Herms NFL on the Twitter machine. If you want to look him up to get your intro, guy's awesome. Have at it. So today I brought some special guests on today. Some of my favorite people in the industry. My favorite people right now in the whole industry, actually. I had to say it out loud on live, or it wasn't official. So
You mean
make that official. My guys, all four of them. We'll go across the board. Clockwork. Andrew, introduce yourself where everybody can find you. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm Andrew Hall. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Hall FF. I'm also on Instagram at Andrew Hall FF, and I write for Fantasy Pros and a bunch of other stuff, but we don't got time for that. I'm glad to be here, John.
Thanks for having me. Next, Colin, go ahead. Where can everybody find you at? What do you do in this awesome fantasy football world?
Yep, Colin McTammany at Colin_MCT on Twitter. I write for FantraxHQ.com. I also have a podcast there, The Fly Fantasy Football Podcast, part of the P2W fantasy team. And I just realized I'm the only one here without a beard, so I'm infinitely less cool than all three of you.
Well, I haven't really hit puberty yet, so I don't have a beard like over here. Like, it hasn't connected all that stuff. One day when I grow up, I'll be like my dad and have a full beard, but I'm trying to, man. You look good, though. That's a handsome face you got going on there.
I appreciate that.
I have a face for radio. You got a face for camera, so that's how that works. JT, the co-host with the mo-host. What's going on, brother? Tell me about what's going on.
Oh, man, trying to get together. My sleep schedule's been out of control lately. I feel like I'm you, John, working overnights. I can't go to bed anymore lately. I've fallen asleep at like 8 a.m., sleeping for like 3 hours. So trying to get together here, getting ready to leave for the draft, getting pumped, freaking out already about everybody's picks. And I know I just need to calm down and just let it happen. But already freaking out. I'm on the Twitter every second of every day, seeing to see what's going on. So you can find me at JT Orange on Twitter, on Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with you on P2W, and then on Dynasty Pros, The Stew with JT Brew debuts tonight at 8:30 Central Time.
I can't wait for that. I'm looking forward to that, man. I'm super excited. I know how excited you are about that podcast, that show, and I'm looking forward to it myself because I love all the stuff you do, JT. You're a good co-host, good dude. So this show was supposed to be 11 o'clock today, but I had a doctor's appointment at 10, and I didn't get to see the doctor until 11:10, and then by the time I got home, it's noon already. So all good though. I'll be around for a couple more years, hopefully. I'm on the back nine of life, but it's all looking good so far. All these tests are coming back pretty good. He said, keep up what you're doing. So another bottle of Jameson and 12 pack of High Life tonight. We'll call it a day.
Little did he know what he was telling you to do, right?
A couple burritos, we'll be
So
fine.
just Wednesday, pretty much.
He had no idea how much damage I would do to my body over draft weekend. So
Keep doing it. You're doing great.
You're doing fast. Speaking of draft weekend, I was supposed to go to draft with JT. We're supposed to drive down there together and go see the whole thing. And my daughter popped up like 2 weeks ago and said that, oh, by the way, our drafts, our prom is on Friday, which was a whole different day scheduled originally. So now I'm not going to draft. I'll be spending 5 minutes taking a couple pictures of my daughter on Friday night, but I'll be at the bar, McBride's 52 and Joliet watching the whole draft itself. J-Mo, hope the Bears trade back and get an OT from Tennessee. We'll see what happens there. No secrets, but we'll see what's going on. Elite group here. That's right. I'm the odd man out here from this talent. That's why I host. I have all the smart and handsome people with me, and that's how that works. So here's another one, my Chris Joel Smith, another teammate. Woohoo! Thanks for jumping in, guys. I appreciate it. But let's get this draft started, guys. This is what we're here for. Talk about the NFL draft, the mock draft for what's really going to happen. This, if you have, I'm not going to say if you were a gambling person, but if you're a gambling person, this might be the most accurate draft you've ever heard in your entire life. So I can't say
get that money ready. Get that money ready.
That's where we go. We're going to kick this thing off with Colin with 1L with the Carolina Panthers from Chicago Bears. Go ahead. Who are we picking here with number one? We're all waiting for this number one pick. What's the number one pick? The Carolina Panthers select?
Well, I have CJ Stroud, but it's funny that you just said get your money ready because this is the most accurate draft ever. I have in my thoughts and reasons and notes here, quite literally, it says, I know Young is the betting favorite. So I do think Bryce Young is probably going to go first overall, but there's still an outside chance. I don't think we have concrete answers on to what anyone is going to do tomorrow night. So I still think Stroud is in the running. I do think this all-star coaching staff they put together this offseason is perfect for him. You got Frank Reich, you got Josh McCown, you got Deuce Staley there, a lot of other names. I know a lot of people are concerned about that S2 cognitive test. He scored an 18% on. I don't even know what that means, really. I haven't really looked into it. I probably wouldn't do so hot on that myself, but look, CJ Stroud is an all-star. He's got a solid frame. He's a great size to be a quarterback, larger than Bryce Young. I know that's, a cop out there, but he's an accurate passer. He's got a strong arm. He showed out at the combine, 85 touchdowns in 25 games at Ohio State University, just 12 interceptions. He protects the ball. He throws people open, and he had 6 touchdowns in 3 different games during his career there. I think he's a lights out pick, and I hope it comes to fruition.
Outstanding. Questions, comments, concerns from the fields. What do you guys think?
Oh, I have questions, but I'll get into it. Yeah. Go ahead, JT.
We all have questions, but it is what it is. It's I'm good with that. I'm glad the Bears got so much in return for this pick. It's nice to see that they got DJ Moore, probably one of my favorite players in the NFL. A bunch of draft picks for it. They might trade down later again. We'll find out later in this draft, but we'll see what happens. Next up, with the number 2 pick in the NFL Commissioner Evaluation mock draft, Justin Taylor selects.
I've got them going off the board here. You never know what the Texans are doing. I kind of feel like they're going to be terrible. I kind of feel like they know they're going to be terrible, and so they think they're going to be a top 5 team again next year looking for a quarterback. I've got them going Will Anderson and going defense. Miko Ryans, defensive guy. I think they're going to want to take him here, or they're going to try to trade back here and get more picks. I don't think this team thinks that they're going to be that good. And so I think they're worried about QB, whether they want to go QB here this year or they want to load up on talent. Because if I know I'm going to be terrible, I'm thinking, hey, let's get as much talent as possible. Let's have a terrible year without ruining our rookie quarterback in the process. And then let's go QB next year. Let's let Davis Mills get crushed again for a year, and then let's go QB next year. So I think I kind of feel like that's what the Texans are doing here. Now, maybe they love Young, and if Stroud actually goes 1, they switch it up real quick and they take Bryce Young. I could see that happening. If Stroud goes 1, I could see them taking Young at 2. But if Young goes first, I could see them jumping in, going defense instead, and kind of throwing a wrench in this whole thing for everybody.
I love that pick. I had that penciled in as what's going on there. So this is me and you are on the same page on this one as far as that goes. So I'm super happy. And the rest of you guys, what do you think about this? Because it does make sense just to hold on, try to tank, and then go for Caleb Williams next year. That would be the plan of all plans. Just stack up your roster this year, get the quarterback you need after you kind of built up the roster a little bit. Next, this draft and maybe these 2 free agency next year. What do you guys think about that?
I think Will Anderson's the best player in the draft. So to get him at 2 would be phenomenal. There's also other quarterbacks available. They don't have to take a rookie in this draft. We've heard Mac Jones' name floated out there. We've heard Trey Lance's name floated out there. Some ties there with that Texans coaching staff. So I think anything's possible. But to lock up a guy like Will Anderson, especially when you have a new head coach, D'Amico Ryans, with a defensive background, I think it's perfect.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say about D'Amico Ryans being the coach. I could see him going defense here. I will be honest, too, and I'll kind of pivot into my pick here at 3. If Arizona's on the clock and these are the first 2 picks, I feel like their phone would be blowing up. I feel like everyone in their right mind would be like, holy crap, Bryce Young is still available. So the pick that I had was they trade with Tennessee. And I'm not great at like predicting trades and packages and all that, but let's just assume that they figure out a way to trade these 2 first-round picks, right? And there's future picks involved, whatever, yada, yada, right? So now Tennessee is on the clock at 3, and they take Bryce Young. I think with the way Tennessee is built, with Derrick Henry most likely staying there, I know I've heard the rumors, but I haven't seen anything official. I think if they get a better QB, and I think the Malik Willis era is probably over, but if we see Stroud, Anderson, Young in that order, I don't know if I've seen a mock that has these 3 in that order, which just lines up exactly, John. This is the best mock draft ever. Like this, the only thing we can predict is the unpredictable. This is unpredictable. This is perfect.
I love it. Any of you guys? Anybody else? JT?
Yeah, I think that's the move. I think Tennessee or somebody moves up. I think also if you're Arizona, Anderson going number 2 to the Texans is absolutely perfect for you. Now you're calling Indy. How bad do you want a guy? Tennessee? Because now, not only do you have all the cards, you have the 2 teams in your own division bent over the barrel if they both want a QB here. That you can't have Arizona. They can now you got guys fighting each other in that same division. Tennessee and the Colts going against each other. I think it's a perfect scenario for Arizona if they can get it.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, talk about perfect, too. I mean, this couldn't have worked out any better for the Colts because they sit back and Will Levis falls right in their lap. I mean, this is what they wanted the whole time. Quarterback in Kentucky, not sure they have a choice here. They either trade up in Arizona to get Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud if the first 2 picks are the first 2 or 3 are defense, or they sit back here and they wait for the rocket arm at number 4. I couldn't imagine a better scenario. JT, I mean, you agree with me 100% on this, right?
Dude, I'm gonna cry. I'm already emotional. I already know that if this happens at the draft, it's gonna ruin my entire draft experience. I'll never go to the draft ever again.
Wow.
I'm already prepared to be insanely disappointed and totally upset. I am not a Levis guy. I think this absolutely murders the Colts for the next decade if they make this move. I spent all night thinking of every other scenario that has them doing anything but taking Will Levis here. And I almost like every scenario on the board outside of taking Will Levis. So if it happens, I am going to be absolutely crushed. I was on every Colts fan page the last 24 hours, and about half of them were like, if we take Will Levis, I'm dropping my season tickets. I might need a new team. I can't believe we're going to think about doing this. I'm hoping this is them just smoke screening like crazy. They're not really interested in him there, but they're just trying to convince somebody else in front of them to take Levis so that they can somehow get Stroud or Young. That's what I'm hoping they're trying to do. But if it happens, I will root for him. I'll hope I was 100% wrong about him. But, man, I am not going to be happy. I'd much rather see Minshew Mania, baby. Minshew Mania, give it to me all day long. Take JSN, take Skoronski, take somebody else at 4, Jalen Carter, take him at 4, and let's go Minshew Mania. And if it blows up in our faces, I'd rather have that happen and have a top 5 pick next year again.
As a Colts season ticket holder, I guess you'd be the person that would be most pissed off in this entire scenario right now. But I get it. I get it. There's a lot of questions. Cody Carpenter loves this dude, but I think he might be the only person on the internet that likes Will Levis. So it is what it is. That's why we have that. It is the best mock draft ever. So that's where he's going, JT. Sorry, it is what it is. Colin, you got number 5. Help us out here.
Yeah, it's the Seattle Seahawks, and they got this pick from Denver. They find themselves in a very unique situation along with the Lions and Eagles, 3 top 10 teams that got picks from bottom of the barrel teams. So kind of playing with house money here. I think Seattle could make the playoffs next year. I think, signing Geno to a 3-year deal was a great move. I do think that the NFC West is weaker than it usually is, so they're in a good position to compete. But they're also in a good position to draft Anthony Richardson, the quarterback out of Florida. They're not going to get this opportunity with Geno under contract to be this high in a draft again to get the quarterback of the future. So why not take a swing on an absolute specimen that is Anthony Richardson, 6'4", 244 pounds. He ran in the 4.4s 40. He's not ready yet. I wouldn't say he's a raw prospect. I would say he's inexperienced. Only 393 pass attempts at Florida. But The arm strength is there. He's a dual threat. He can sit 1, probably 2 years behind Geno. And then once Geno's contract runs out, you've got your quarterback of the future, and you got him at a discount years prior.
I would think I was sitting at the bar. I believe they were playing Georgia. I think it was when he made that spectacular play where he faked, spun around, and just threw his beam right in the corner of the end zone. And we're all sitting at the bar like, did you see that? Like, it was the most spectacular play I've seen in my entire life. And I've watched a lot of football. You know, a lot of people agree he's not ready yet. He needs some to be groomed. But sitting behind Geno Smith for years, I mean, you can't talk about a more perfect scenario. So I get it. This is fantastic. Andrew, JT.
Yeah, I'll just jump in here and say that you're exactly right. I mean, this is a premium pick with a lot of needs. A lot of other teams have the need for quarterback, and really the Seahawks, you could argue they do have a need at quarterback after signing Geno. But this is the perfect situation for Anthony Richardson to go into and be able to sit and learn and let him cook at some point, right? Geno is probably not a franchise quarterback, but Richardson could be, and I don't think it's a bad idea here. It also gives you some options if week 3, week 4, week 5, you're 0-5 as the Seahawks, and you're like, let's pivot to Richardson. Let's see what we got in the kid. And we trade Geno and still get another draft pick next year or something, right? It gives you a ton of flexibility. So I love this pick.
I agree with you. I think it's perfect for Seattle. If I'm the Colts, that's what I'm thinking. Honestly, I'm thinking the same thing. I'm saying, hey, I'd rather have Richardson. I'd rather have a guy that's maybe a year or two away, and we can play Minshew this year. I mean, I'm not a super huge Richardson guy. I think he needs a ton of work, but I'd much rather take him and the upside that might be him in a couple of years, a year or two. I'd much rather do that as a Colts fan. I think Colts fans would be on board on that. But I think if this falls this way for the Seahawks, I don't think it could have worked out perfect any better for them. All of a sudden we got a top 5 pick we didn't think we were getting, and now we get a QB for the QB we gave up. That's 13 years younger, 14 years younger. I mean, if it falls this way, the Seahawks just crushed, and Pete Carroll's a mad genius yet again.
Pete Carroll likes his defense, but speaking of defense, JT, you're on the clock at number 6 with the Detroit Lions.
I know this is a deep draft. A lot of people talking about what you want to do at cornerback here, where you go. If Jalen Carter's here in this spot, I could see them maybe going with him. But man,
JT froze up for a minute there, but I mean, this is a great pick. Well, I'm not going to say it yet. Hopefully he unfreezes in a second. I don't want to steal his thunder here, but he's got a really good defensive player here, and this is, I think, defense is their need, Detroit's biggest need right now. They spruced up the offense a little bit. They
watch the line.
There you go.
Sorry about that.
Go ahead. Go ahead. We were just we didn't give up your pick yet, so go ahead.
I'm taking Devin Witherspoon from Illinois, the cornerback. He is just a Lions type of player. The guy's hard-nosed, a little undersized, but he comes up and makes hits. He's a great cover corner. I watched him all year this year at Illinois, right down the road from me. The guy was just a stud. He would have had at least 2 or 3 more picks that he got robbed on this year, where he made great plays, but they called penalties on. I mean, I just think the guy fits perfectly for the Lions. I know there's a couple other guys that could go in this situation, but I think DB is what the Lions need more than anything. And I think getting a cornerback here and then maybe going a corner or a safety at 18 or in the second round is going to be the move for them.
Agreed, 100% agreed. They need to spruce up the defense side of the ball. They got smoked almost every game last year. They need to improve a lot of spots in the defense, not just a cornerback. That's a good start anyway. Any other thoughts, you guys?
Yeah, they traded Jeff Okudah. I mean, former 3rd overall pick. They got to replace him sooner than later. I don't know what went on there, but he's on the Atlanta Falcons now for a 5th before his rookie deal ran out. So, replacing him with one of these top corners seems like a no-brainer to me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Andrew, up next with number 7 pick for the Las Vegas Raiders.
Yeah, Raiders pretty much run up to the podium and draft Christian Gonzalez, cornerback out of Oregon. I think between Witherspoon and Gonzalez, my logic is I think the Raiders need some help on defense. I know that there's a lot of question marks all over the place with that team right now, but given the way this draft board is falling and given the way they've got some other needs, I feel like if Witherspoon's gone, you might as well get Gonzalez. They're kind of 1A and 1B to me in this draft when it comes to DBs. And I don't think I think the teardrop is pretty solid after this, in my opinion. There's some other players I could see them going with, of course, but I think their defense is what they need to do here. And Gonzalez, to me, is a slam dunk pick at the 7th overall.
Yeah. Speaking of defense, this might fall right in your lap here, Colin, with the Bears.
I don't think I'm up yet. I think
John,
You're
you're
up.
up with the
I'm up.
Falcons.
I got the Falcons. We'll keep talking defense. This is a lot of good defensive players in this draft. Nolan Smith, Georgia. The Bijan Robinson to the Falcons echo chamber on Twitter is kind of something I'm not going to listen to. That's one of those things that, blah, 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 blah. But having a good defensive end on the Atlanta Falcons is a desperate need of theirs. I don't think you waste picks like this on running backs. And when you drafted a running back last year, your receivers are okay. Your tight end's fine if you throw the ball to them once in a while. Shore up the defense. And the best place to start is the Nolan Smith, defensive end from Georgia. What do you guys think about that pick?
Solid. I love it.
Yeah, there's not much. There's a lot of fantasy implications for offensive players, but these defensive picks, you just know they just fit in on teams. You can't replace a good defensive end, especially someone like someone like Nolan Smith is someone you can't replace. You can't just. It's not like a generational player, but he's absolutely fantastic. He'll be a great edge player for the Falcons. Colin,
I was going to tell you real quick. Nolan Smith, to me, he reminds me of Alden Smith. Played at Missouri quite a few years ago. When he came out, everybody's like, "Oh, is he a little too skinny? Is he a little too tall, a little lanky?" But man, he came in and just blew up the NFL before he had all his off the field issues. And I mean, you look at Nolan Smith, man, guy, number one overall player coming out of high school. So he's got the talent, he's got the ability. I feel like he's a guy who's just scratching the surface, and he's going to end up being one of those guys that's a much better pro player than he ever was in college. I think whoever gets him is going to get a sneaky good player. And again, the Falcons defense needs all the help they can get. I think that's a smart move, keeping him in Georgia, going to the Falcons, and he gives them just an edge rusher for the next, hopefully 10 years for them.
I do think that the Atlanta Falcons could probably trade back and still get Nolan Smith. So I do wonder if that's a possibility. If there's someone still on the board, perhaps my next pick, that maybe someone wants to trade up and get at 8. So that should be interesting to see. I do think there's going to be a lot of trades into the top 10 or, top 15 or so. You want me to just segue right into 9?
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, my 9th pick, I have the Bears, but I think they're trading down again. They're not a 9th pick away from all of a sudden competing in the NFL. I do think they need more assets now that they have committed to Justin Fields. So why not trade down again and get what you can, especially when a guy like Jalen Carter is on the board. I do think he is outside of the quarterbacks that are obviously going to go early on in this draft. I do think he sets the tone for how the rest of the draft is going to go. He didn't meet with teams outside the top 10, so he expects to be drafted inside the top 10. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to come up and get him. What better coach, Peter King said, than Mike Tomlin to have Jalen Carter? Obviously, he had the car incident. He had a pro day that wasn't, superb by any means, but Jalen Carter is an excellent pass rusher. He's a beast. And I think, fitting him in on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to lose Cam Hayward in a couple years. He's 33. I think he's a perfect fit for that defense.
Before Andrew starts throwing shade on this because he's a Bengals fan, I'm going to let JT go first in the commentary here.
Well, this would be the one move that might save my day once Will Levis gets picked by the Colts. I could come back and put on my Steelers hat and be like, yes, because I think this is perfect landing spot for him. Steelers, I think this would be absolutely the perfect guy that they want. I mean, they need help up the middle. Before the draft, I said if this guy can get his motor going, he could be the next Cam Hayward. I mean, he's got a long way to go to get there. Cam Hayward is just a beast. But Cam Hayward, a couple years left in the tank, I think, for him. I think add Jalen Carter, that defensive line, which is, I think, probably the one spot the Steelers need the most up the middle, is that defensive lineman like him. If they can somehow make a move and get Jalen Carter at 9, I think it's a home run for the Steelers.
What does that do?
Yeah, and I'll just jump in here and say I hate it, right? I hate it. I don't want this at all. This is terrifying to me. But no, it's a terrific pick. I think you're exactly right. You said everything I was kind of hit on there, is that this is their one glaring hole. I think a better defense really helps that offense and Pickett get kind of more comfortable. They don't need to be playing from behind so much. And Jalen Carter is a generational defensive talent in my book. So I think that's a terrific pick. Yeah, I hate it, but I love it.
JT, Philadelphia Eagles at number 10.
So this is an interesting spot. I could absolutely see the Eagles trading out of this spot too if somebody gets real crazy. Because right now, I mean, they've been just done awesome job of playing with house money, just moving back, keep getting more picks, getting more picks. If they can't get a deal done with someone here, I can see them kind of swinging for the fences at 10 here and trying to go. So the one spot that they're kind of aging at, and they're not, that they're going to need some help here is defensive line. And I think Lucas Van Ness is that guy. Sophomore, hasn't started the whole ever for Iowa, but a guy with a big motor. Everybody's saying he's got huge upside. I think that would be a huge move for them. Because I think he can come in and he doesn't necessarily have to be the superstar for them this year. They still got Brandon Graham. They still got other guys. I think they can work him in this year. And then as these older players kind of move out the next year or two, I think Van Ness is that guy that comes through. And then you can look at it in a couple of years and be like, oh, man, everybody thought we reached for him, and he was a steal at 10. Talking about betting, this is one of my favorite bets. If you jump on DraftKings right now, you can take Lucas Van Ness as the number 10 pick. He is plus 600 right now if you get him as the number 10 pick. So this is my swing for the fences shot at but this is, I like him at plus 600. I got a little dough on that one.
Nice.
I like it.
Colin, any idea, any Philly commentary here?
Yeah, Hercules. I mean, he's a beast, man. I'd like to see them go a little bit more interior D line, but if this Jalen Carter trade that I proposed at 9 happens, I think I'm going to go back to what JT said earlier, and I think the Eagles could trade out of 10. I really think they'd like to beef up the inside. They've got Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat as edge rushers. They could use another, but I think that 10th pick, again, house money, there's going to be a lot of people looking to trade up because there's still some very good players on the board, including the next pick here. And we'll kick it over to Andrew for that one.
Defense,
Yeah.
defense,
baby. I'm telling you. Arizona was sitting at 3. And in my mind, I think Arizona is going edge, whether it's Will Anderson or this guy, Tyree Wilson, who they're taking in this trade when they traded back with Tennessee. So if Anderson goes at 2 and Arizona's there at 3, I think they're probably going, well, Tyree Wilson's probably our pick. Now they get to trade back and get Tyree Wilson anyway, and most likely get a pick upgrade next year or what have you. Like, this is just a smash accept to me. I think that the way that Arizona team is built, they need something on the defense like we've been talking about. And getting Tyree, I'm a big fan of Tyree. I think he could be a top 5, top 10 kind of pick. But because of the quarterbacks and all the, focus put on them, he's probably not going to be. So you're going at 11, kind of fits that mold. But I think it's a steal at the 11th pick. So, yeah, definitely smash that Tyree Wilson edge from Texas Tech for the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, I had the Seahawks with that 5th pick. I know I said Anthony Richardson. If they don't use that house money pick on a quarterback, I think Tyree Wilson is a slam dunk to be the 5th overall pick for the Seahawks.
Very much possible, yeah.
Well, it's been defense the whole way through. I'm about to ruin that whole situation. Houston's got a lot of spots to fill, but I think one of their big situations is a wide receiver, and this is where JSN comes off the board. I think he's the best receiver by far in this class. They can't afford to start the year off with the receiving core they got right now. So I just think that they need to take a stab on some offensive weapons. It's a situation where they need to grow as a team, and there's no better way to start than scoring points. And with JSN, I think that's got to be for my money. That's just it just fits right for this team. What do you guys think about that?
Oh, I'm a big fan of JSN at 12, mostly because I think they end up getting Stroud at 2, and so it kind of pairs those two up from college, which we're seeing all the time now. So I think JSN at 12 is almost a lock for me. Like I was talking about this last night, actually, on the In Between Media show. We were talking about betting props, and I'm like, I'm smashing that under 12.5 for JSN because I think he goes at 12, and that's positive money. It's almost like free money in my book because I think it's such a guaranteed thing. So 100% with you. Whether or not they take Stroud, I think JSN is the right pick here at 12.
It's been I've heard it everywhere, back and forth, and it's one of those things that it just makes too much sense not to, that kind of deal. And like you said, even if they don't go with the quarterback at earlier on, I just still think they're one of their most glaring needs is wide receiver, and for him to fall to them right here. And I wouldn't really even say fall because there's so many teams that need defensive help on this board so far. People need quarterbacks and defense so far in this draft, almost all the way across. But Houston's one of the first teams that pretty much needs help everywhere. So, besides Arizona, I guess. But So we'll. What do you got? Any other suggestions? Or
JSN is, I think, the perfect pick for them. I mean, even though they're gonna be bad, he's automatically their best offensive player. I mean, he immediately goes in, is the number one. And for fantasy purposes, I hate it because he's on the Texans and I like him a ton. I don't want to face him all the time. But I think fantasy purposes, even if they're terrible, this is actually a spot where a guy still blows up. I still think JSN, even if they're horrible, has a monster year, even if it is Davis Mills throwing to him all year, because I think he just dumps it off to him constantly, and he's going to get open underneath because people are going to be like, we're not going to let you beat us deep. We're going to be up most of the time. He feels like dump off central, where he is just catching 115 balls for Houston because they got nobody else.
Yeah, Robert Wood signed a 2-year deal there. He's getting up there in age. I do want to give a quick shout out to John Mechie, rookie from last year. He missed all last year with leukemia. Saw today he's back out on the field, so that's pretty cool. But again, they don't know what they have in John Mechie per se. And then Nico Collins is kind of a little bit of a letdown, especially for fantasy purposes. So JSN slides into this offense. He's going to be their number one target. I know they got Dalton Schultz at tight end, but as far as wide receiver targets go, he's going to eat them all up there.
Flawlessly fits right in the spot. So, Colin, jump right in. Your number pick 13 with the number 13 pick, the Green Bay Packers from the New York Jets. Select.
Yeah, I'm going Michael Mayer, first tight end off the board, but he's more than just a receiving tight end. He can also block. I think he's a day one starter. I think it's interesting that the Packers and Jets did do that pick swap. It makes you think, why would they? Well, I think there's a lot of teams that actually could use a tight end of Michael Mayer's caliber, including not only the Packers, but the Jets. So they switched with them. The Commanders at 16, the Lions at 18, Bucks at 19, Chargers 21, Cowboys 26. They're all in play to take a tight end. And Michael Mayer, 800 or more yards and 7 or more touchdowns in each of his last 2 seasons. I think he's an excellent safety valve for Jordan Love in his first year as a starter, along with some other young receiving guys there, Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs. So fills a need at the position since they lost Robert Tonyan, but also plugs in an excellent pass catcher and blocker to that offense.
Yeah, I had him slated there myself. So that's in my mock drafts. This is perfect fit. I think the Packers only have Josiah Deguara as only pretty much tight end in the whole roster. So, JT, you got the Patriots at number 14. What do you think?
Yeah, so here I found a guy that I just think if he gets them, he could go a little earlier, he could go a little later. I think that if one of the cornerbacks drop for some reason, Gonzalez or someone, I could see the Pats going him. But if this guy gets here, he feels like a Patriots player, and that is Miles Murphy from Clemson, the defensive end. Guy plays on the edge, but he's more of that natural D end as opposed to just a pure pass rusher. He's a guy that sets the edge and really is good against the run. And that's where I think, a Belichick is going to love this guy because he's going to say, hey, he's not just a pure pass rusher. They've got some pure pass rushers on that team. And so I think getting a big guy like Murphy that can set the edge, play the run as well, he just feels like a Patriots type of pick. They like that guy on defense. And I think they're going to go back the old Patriot way. They're just going to start loading up on defense again and say, hey, we got to have a top 5 defense. And then we can, be in every game. And then we're not worried about Mac or Bailey Zappi or whoever having to bring us back in games. We just got to pound the ball with Rhamondre Stevenson and play defense, go back the old Patriot way, and we'll be back where we used to be.
Andrew, number 15, New York Jets from the Packers. What do you got going on here?
Starting to run on offensive linemen here. I feel like they have their choice. I feel like you got to protect Rodgers. He just got signed. They got everything else they need. They got Garrett Wilson. They got Breece Hall. They got Sauce Gardner. They got a pretty good team overall. And I think they go with Paris Johnson as their pick of the OTs on this one. And I think, again, if they're going to pick anyone, I could see it being any of these next 4 guys, right? Any of these 4 OTs are not necessarily interchangeable, but to me, they're all similarly valued. So I think they go Paris Johnson because of that OSU connection. And I just feel like, that just feels right with Garrett Wilson being like, hey, guys, take the guy. He's from OSU. I like him. So that's what I think happens there.
Yeah, I got the Commanders next. Broderick Jones, offensive tackle from Georgia. Can't miss player. Could play pretty much anywhere on the line. So one of those deals where you don't want to reach for Hendon Hooker or some other guys around here. Like, just go put the money where it matters. Go for offensive linemen. It's almost can't miss at these situations here when you need offensive linemen, and they're steady contributors all the time. Colin, with the Steelers, what do you got going on? You're on mute.
Sorry, I'm drinking coffee. I don't want the slurps to make the feed. So the Steelers did move up in this draft with my Bears pick from earlier. So now the Bears are on the clock with this one. And if this happens, give Ryan Poles the key to the city. Peter Skoronski, offensive tackle out of Northwestern, especially if Paris Johnson and Broderick Jones go before him, which they could. This is a great pick. He's got short arms. I've been doing a lot of research on him because I think the Eagles are in play with him as well, as a fan of them. But long arm defenders kind of have their way with him at tackle. And I think Peter Skoronski is a guy you can move to guard. And I think the Bears just need any sort of big body guys they can get up front, especially with a mobile quarterback like Justin Fields. So I think it's a no-brainer for them to add to the offensive line, especially when they've traded down twice now and grabbed other assets.
Yeah, the Bears were slated to take Skoronski like where they were at originally. So this works out even better if they can trade back, get more picks, and also get Skoronski. So I mean, that's fantastic. JT Lions 18.
I feel like the Lions can go in a ton of different directions here at 18. So I think they're going to start looking around and say, what's our best value? I could see them looking at tight end, but I feel like this tight end class is really deep. And I feel like in the second round, one of the top 2 or 3 guys on their board is still going to be there. So I think they maybe look at Kincaid here, but I think they wait back because I think they could go like a Laporta from Iowa in the second round might fit them a little better. I think they go best player available, and I think they take Darnell Wright, the right tackle from Tennessee. I just feel like you can never have too many offensive linemen. You got to protect Goff as much as possible. I could see them maybe going defense here as well, depending on who falls, but I think they go best player available, and at this point, I think it's right.
Andrew, Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, again, Tampa Bay has a lot of holes too, but they're not just one piece away from winning. So I don't think they go Bijan here, although I've seen that mocked. I feel like that would be kind of, I wouldn't say it would be killer for his fantasy value, but I wouldn't see it. So I think the way that team is kind of rebuilding is they're not getting anybody flashy this year. I don't think they won any skill positions. I think they're just going to load up where they can do better and do more damage. And Brian Branch being the best safety still on the board here at 19, sorry. I love that pick for Tampa Bay. So yeah, give me Brian Branch from Alabama. Just locks up that back end, start to play some better defense and start to, I don't know, control a little bit more of their own destiny in that newly founded NFC South division with all the new faces showing up there. So that's what I would do if I were them.
I got next pick, Seattle Seahawks, number 20, Caleb Kancey from Pittsburgh. But I probably should go wide receiver to help Geno Smith out a little bit, but you can't really go along with a good defensive lineman. That's just, especially someone of his caliber. So Colin, 21, Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, they need wide receiver help. So I'm letting them pick my number 1 wide receiver from this class. It's Jordan Addison from USC. I know it's a little bit of a hot take. I've seen some other people have it. This guy is just, they're all athletes, right? Everyone that plays in the NFL is an athlete. This guy is just like the next level of athleticism. He's speedy. He can stretch the field, which this team desperately needs. Keenan Allen was rumored to be traded earlier this offseason. He's probably not going to be at this point, obviously, but he's on his way out of the Los Angeles Chargers in the next couple of years. If they do trade Austin Eckler, there's going to be a ton of targets available on this team. He did post 100 receptions, 1,593 yards, and 17 touchdowns in one season at Pittsburgh. I know it's not the most elite conference there, but still speaks to what he's able to do. Great run after the catch, explosive ability. This is just a playmaker for the future years to come with Justin Herbert.
Pretty sure everybody and their mother loves this pick right now. JT, Andrew.
Dude, this is my absolute favorite landing spot.
I would be so excited.
Fantasy.
Oh my God.
This is my favorite landing spot for fantasy this year. If Addison can go to the Chargers, I just think this is absolute money.
Herbert to the moon. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I want Addison anywhere in that 1-6, 1-7, 1-8 range. I've got a couple of those picks. And if this happens, I'm going to be praying he gets to me because this is exactly where I think this is a perfect spot for him is the Chargers.
JT, you're up next with the Ravens. Joey Porter Jr. Oh shit.
So yeah. No, you got it. You're good. No. So I think, obviously Porter, his dad played for the Steelers. I feel like this is just that perfect, like kind of little Steelers like jab is like, we're gonna take Joey Porter Jr. just to get back in because Ravens they hate Joey Porter. They absolutely hate Joey Porter. So I just think this would be a great little stab for them. They definitely need to go DB. So if Porter's still on the board here I think he's the best cornerback left. So I think they go him. If he gets picked just a couple picks before, which I think could happen, I think they just jump to the next cornerback. This team needs cornerback bad, real bad, especially in that NFC Central, or NFC North, excuse me. So I just think they've got to go him. I think Porter's on the board. They go take him and run with him.
Andrew, with the worst defense in the NFL pretty much last year, what it seemed like anyway, the Minnesota Vikings, what do you think?
I'm going Deonte Banks, the CB out of Maryland. And I think this is one of those picks, too, that if I were the Vikings, I would try to trade back, but my phone's not ringing. And it's like, I want to get more picks. There's a lot of value still to come. And these next few picks are all really good ones, too. And I feel like there's not enough for anyone to jump up and take this. So I'm taking Banks, who I think is one of the better CBs, one of the better DBs in the back, in the class, I'm sorry. And I think, too, is like I've seen him mocked in the top 15, top 20, and they're getting him here at 23? So that feels like a pretty good value to me. And like you said, their defense needs a lot of work. So this at least helps them anchor that and try to lock some of those offenses down that they're going to be facing this year.
Yeah. Now for Jacksonville Jaguar, number 24, I got what might be probably the number one tight end, which most people think in this draft is Dalton Kincaid. I know they franchise Evan Ingram, but they're going to try to work out a deal long term. But Ingram hasn't stayed healthy his whole career, and he's kind of sporadic sometimes. So, A, to have some depth at the tight end position, and B, to have someone of his caliber, to help Trevor Lawrence out for the next 10 years, or if they decide to move on after this year, they can't work out a deal with Ingram. I love Dalton Kincaid here. Any thoughts on Dalton Kincaid?
I think this would be a little bit of a ding to his fantasy value, especially in rookie drafts. I do think he falls a little bit further, though, because of that back issue, but he was cleared. But I don't know, the presence of him with Ingram, especially in 2023, is a little bit worrisome. But hey, like you said, Evan Ingram was franchise tagged. He might just be a one and done after this season. So it could be perfect moving forward.
Tight ends take some time to develop too. So I actually like this pick for him as a long-term dynasty asset where it's like you could add him in the second round if this happens and stash him on your bench or your taxi or what have you. And then Ingram's gone next year and Kincaid to the moon. So I like this pick. Actually, I think it makes a lot of sense for both the team and the player.
JT?
Yeah, I totally agree with Andrew. Exactly what he said. I think this is a stash. If he goes there, I love it. And I'm looking to take him, Kincaid, now mid-second to late second round in rookie drafts and stash him for the year. I like it.
Colin at number 25, New York Giants. Are we staying offense? What are we doing here?
Yeah, I feel like I've been in a complete fantasy mindset for this entire draft. Stroud, Richardson, Addison, and now I'm going wide receiver again, New York Giants, Zay Flowers. They have a lot of wide receivers similarly sized to Zay Flowers, Wan'Dale Robinson, Paris Campbell, Jamison Crowder. Not all of those guys are even locks to make the team to begin with, but I would say Zay Flowers is better than all of them. He added about 10 pounds of muscle before the combine, still ran a 4.4. He just worked out with Patrick Mahomes recently. I don't know if anyone saw those videos, but he looked extremely explosive. He looks great. Considering that they just locked up Daniel Jones for at least the next 3 to 4 years, this is just another weapon to add to his arsenal to see what they really can do there.
I've been hearing around the Twitter chamber, but all people who are in the know saying that this guy's taking it seriously. He's gaining weight. He's gaining muscle. He's running out. He's working out whatever he possibly can. Someone who you should really keep an eye on. When you see someone with a work ethic like that, he's not at bars and clubs and doing, stupid stuff and putting videos out all the time. He's putting the work in. It seems like every day. What do you guys think about this pick? Andrew, JT?
I'm a fan. Yeah, I think it makes total sense for the team need. It makes the players terrific. So, yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Flowers, he's an East Coast guy, being at Boston College. I think that helps. It helps adjust to New York media a little bit more, being out there. And I just think, the Giants need major help. They had the worst wide receiver core in the NFL last year. I think he goes in and immediately becomes their number one.
JT, here's the thing. Is Jerry World going to bring in another running back? Like someone who might be like a Bijan Robinson because he loves running back so much. What are they doing at 26?
I could totally see him going Bijan here, but if they don't go running back, I'm going something I haven't seen mocked a lot, but I think I could see happening. I could see them going Drew Sanders, linebacker, Arkansas. He is one of the most athletic linebackers in this class, and he's just a guy that can play everywhere. He can rush from the outside. He can play inside. He's just got a ton of ability. He's an Arkansas guy. We know how Jerry loves his Arkansas players. I could see them just saying, hey, we got Michael Parsons on the one side. What can we do to make Michael Parsons better? Let's get Drew Sanders on the other side, causing problems. I just think for fantasy purposes, IDP purposes, that'd be a great landing spot for Drew Sanders. I could see it happening. It's a little bit of a stretch, I think, here, but I could see the Cowboys going that direction.
Andrew, 27, the Buffalo Bills. We all want Buffalo Bills to draft a wide receiver. Who do you got going to Buffalo Bills number 27?
I thought about giving them Quentin Johnston, who we'll talk about later, but I decided, let's protect the ball a little bit more. And I think with the running back depth, I think the Bills are probably going to take one of those other running backs in the second or third. I still think I think Diggs is coming back, whatever. There's a lot of drama there, but they take Osiris Torrance, inside offensive lineman from Florida, likely going to line up as a guard. I feel like that's just depth that team needs. We saw a lot of issues with them in the postseason, not being able to stop the Bengals, and maybe this is where they go to try to shore that up on the inside a little bit better and protect their number one asset in Josh Allen. So that's kind of what I go there is Torrance at 27.
All of us fantasy nerds want, a good wide receiver to play in the slot here, but in reality, they really need offensive linemen too. So I think they have a couple. They don't have a lot of glaring spots, but the spots they do need help on, they need help on a lot. So, those are two offensive linemen and wide receiver are probably the only two spots and possibly running back, the only two spots they really, really need kind of like, upgrades on. I'll put it that way anyway. So, let's see. Oh, what do you know? It's my turn. The Bengals, 28. Well, since the Cowboys didn't take any running backs, might as well. You're going to get rid of Joe Mixon, take Bijan Robinson. I'm sure Andrew's probably going nuts over there right now with this pick. I can't imagine a better situation for Bijan to fall in than an offense that's already super powered like this. With a good offensive line, good quarterback. It's filled with good receivers. And even if the receivers don't get anything, don't get peppered with targets, Bijan out of the backfield is going to catch, 100 passes, probably 50 or 60 passes too, to start his career off in this high-powered offense. Andrew, I'll let you go first on the commentary on the Bengals picking about Bijan Robinson if it falls at number 28 in the draft.
What really needs to be said? This is a perfect pick. This is exactly what a luxury pick like this is for a team that's one spot away. I like Mixon. Don't get me wrong. He's done terrific for the team. But if Bijan's there, how do you not take Bijan at 28? You lock him up for that 5-year contract. You don't have to re-sign him. This is brilliant. I think it makes too much sense. They're going to have to save money somewhere. And in drafting a running back like this with this kind of talent on this kind of team makes too much sense. So I'm happy to let this happen. This would be great.
Yeah. Peace out, Joe Mixon. It is what it is. Colin, 29, New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, Andrew just said something that's, I think, useful for people to know is that these later picks are all eligible most of the time to be traded out of because teams want to come in and get that player to get that fifth-year option, perhaps a quarterback like Hendon Hooker. We could see a team that misses out on one of the top guys earlier in this round move back into one of these spots. If the Saints stay here, though, I'm going with probably the toughest name to pronounce of this draft, but I'm going to give it a go here. Adetomiwa Adebawore. I sounded it out in my notes here. I think I got it right. Regardless of, how I did there, you got to watch this kid play. He made himself some money at the combine. If you haven't seen him at the combine, go watch it. 280 pounds, 4.49 40 speed, 27 reps on the bench press. I don't even know if he's really an edge rusher. I just think he's a defensive weapon. I think you get him on your defense and good things are going to happen. The Saints have a new defensive coordinator in Joe Woods. He's a 19-year coaching veteran of the NFL. It's his first year with the Saints, but he spent the last 3 years with the Cleveland Browns. Who's on the Cleveland Browns? Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney. So I think he's a perfect coach to, have this young man on his team. And Cam Jordan, again, another aging veteran on his way out, 34 years old in July. So the Saints need to replace him sooner than later.
Perfect. Yeah, the fifth-year option, like we talked about, Lamar Jackson picked up, traded back in to get Lamar Jackson to get his fifth-year option a couple years ago. That's the place to do it. JT, Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, this is that spot where I think somebody moves in, maybe takes this spot if they want Hooker or one of these guys at the very end. And, I think the Eagles would happily move out and get back in the second. If they hold on to the spot, though, if they go a D-line like I have them going D-line early, I think they go DB here. If they go DB early, say a Gonzalez falls to them at 10, I think they switch it up and they go D-line here. I think that's their two spots. The guy I really think fits this team, but I don't think he gets here, and who I wanted to take was Brian Branch. I think he fits in great on this team as that strong safety nickel guy. If they can somehow figure out to move back and then move up and get Branch, I think Branch is perfect for them, exactly what they need. If they can't get him, I think they go cornerback. A guy that's people are a little iffy on is Emmanuel Forbes, cornerback, Mississippi State. Now, the guy has got lightning speed. He's the all-time NCAA leader in interception returns for touchdowns. The guy is an absolute weapon. The problem with him is he was 166 at the combine. 166. I was 166
Soaking wet,
my
yeah.
junior year of high school. So, like, I mean,
Same.
that's not big. I mean, that's not very big. 166. So, hopefully, you get him into, an NFL weight room and be able to pack some pounds on him and strengthen him up a little bit. But I think he's a guy that a lot of teams are intrigued by just because he's such a playmaker. He makes plays on the ball, and again, they've got such a good defense already there for the Eagles. I think he's just kind of a prime guy that if they stay there, they take him.
I was 5'10", 166 in 7th grade. So
It checks.
that's it. All right, number 31. No Dolphins pick, so this is the last pick in the draft. Andrew, Kansas City Chiefs. What are they doing here?
Last pick of the first round. I think they go Quentin Johnson. I think they get that wide receiver. I think he can play any position. He can play inside. He can play outside. He's a big guy and big target for Pat. Isn't that fifth-year option if he ends up being a stud? I wouldn't be shocked either if they trade back with Houston, who's at the beginning of the second, and maybe move back a couple picks to let Houston get Hooker here. But I don't think I've heard Hooker to the Chiefs. I don't like it. I don't get going. I appreciate your time, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Andrew. That was Andrew was he had a literally a 1:00 deadline to be on, so he got his pick in. He got it in. It was a great pick, guys. Thanks for joining me today. Any other thoughts or anything on the draft that any other thoughts that can come to your mind that might happen here in your trades?
Yeah, I want to mention. I think I know JT was just talking about what the Eagles could do there. Rather than take a 166-pound cornerback, Budda Baker. Go get Budda Baker from the Arizona Cardinals. And, I think Brian Branch is a really good pick, actually. But if they miss out on him and they need safety help, Budda Baker's available. I do think he gets traded on draft night.
Yeah, I think that would be a fantastic move for them. Again, they've got, draft capital. They're just loading up for a run back at the Super Bowl again. I think that's a great move. They can make a move there. I would think the Eagles are going to be one of those teams that are going to be fielding calls everywhere, moving up, moving back. I just think they have so many things that they can do. And again, they're one of the few teams aren't like locked in that like we got to have a guy at this position because we're just in trouble. I think they're pretty loaded all over. So I can see them making a bunch of moves. I think this is going to be a highly entertaining first round of this NFL draft. Like I said, I'm hoping I'm coming home super excited and not crying in my beer at the end of the night after this first round. But I'm excited to see what happens. I think there could be a lot of movement.
Yeah, I'm so pissed I can't go to the draft, JT.
I know. We're gonna miss you, John. I'm gonna have to call you when we're there.
Oh,
and,
thanks.
Hopefully it's. I'll call you and talk to you. Hopefully it's a good call and not me just sobbing on the phone. So
yeah, just show me send a video of you drinking beer with naked girls or something like that at the draft. It would be great, All right, well, you guys, Colin, want to see your way out here? Tell everybody could find you at one more time. Kind of the whole deal.
Yeah, at Colin_MCT on Twitter. I'm always there, sending out memes, chatting with people, putting up polls. So very interactive on Twitter. I write for FantraxHQ.com, and I'm part of the P2W fantasy football team. Speaking of which, we do have a Patreon. It's run by Nick Scripp, our fearless leader. We're definitely going to be chatting about the draft on that Patreon. It's only $5 a month, cheaper than this cup of coffee here. So why don't you join it and get in on the discussion? There's going to be a lot of good content there over the summer. John and JT, I know you guys contribute to that. So definitely something worthwhile. Yeah,
this show is part of the P2W channel here. So hopefully, the Patreon is something I forget to mention all the time. Thanks a lot for doing it. JT, or Discord guy, what do you think about the P2W Patreon Discord?
Yeah, man, I think I love being in the Discords, talking to people, chatting up. I'm in quite a few of them, so people always can find me, JT Orange 4, and most of the Discords I'm in there. JT Orange on Twitter. If you haven't followed yet, JT Brew Stew at JT Brew Stew is the new site for the Brew with JT Stew podcast, which is debuting this evening, actually, on the Dynasty Pros channel on YouTube. So check us out on there. Also do content for Dynasty Pros and DLF. So you can always find me writing up stuff there as well. And then hanging out with you, John, on the Commissioner Evaluation podcast here on the P2W Network.
Hopefully we can find your new show on Apple Podcasts, as this show will be on Apple Podcasts, as well as Dynasty Pros, all P2W stuff. And that's where everything's at, guys. So thanks for joining in today. Thanks for being part of the awesomeness that was the Commissioner Evaluation Show. These guys are what makes it awesome, having awesome minds like this, awesome people on the channel with me. So thank you very much for tuning in. And again, Apple Podcasts, that's where you can find my show at.
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, yo, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. And yo, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
Bye, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being awesome. And we'll see you later.